Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Matt, and today I wanted to talk about getting over some of that overwhelming material you might face. Maybe you're trying to read for the first time, listen to a podcast, watch a Netflix show, play a video game in a foreign language, and you run into this obstacle where you feel very overwhelmed and it just feels like it's hopeless. So I think that this happens quite a bit, especially when people try to use compelling content for the first time. Maybe you want to read in a foreign language, you want to read a book, or read newspapers. Maybe you want to watch a Netflix show, watch YouTube videos in a foreign language, or even play a video game in a foreign language. And inevitably, what happens a lot of time is, people will start using material and it is very overwhelming, right? There's a lot of material thrown at you at once, and people panic and they get really discouraged and overwhelmed, and they kind of just quit and they go back to that beginner material. And sometimes you do need to go back and maybe work on some vocabulary, work on some grammar before trying to tackle that material again. But in a lot of cases, it really is just all about taking it a little bit slower. And so I like to compare this to an experience maybe you had in school, whether that's college or high school or something like that, where let's say you were preparing for a test, right? You're ready for this test, you know the material, and you get there on test day, and you look at the test and you start to panic. You're skipping a lot more questions than you thought you were going to. You just can't find the answer, and you're panicking. And maybe you kind of calm down, you really take your time and look at the material, and you go, okay, I know this, and then you do well on the test. Or maybe you get the results back from the test and you realize, oh man, I knew this material. I just was panicking, and I was freaking out, and I just didn't do as well because I was in that panic state. Well, I like to think sometimes of this overwhelming feeling that you will encounter with language learning very similar. It's a very similar experience. And I think that when you're either, reading or listening or whatever, one of the key things to do in that situation is really just slow down, right? Take your time and break it down into small little chunks. So for example, if you're reading a newspaper article, try not to go through it very quickly. Really break it down word by word, sentence by sentence. Really try to understand what's going on. Okay, what is this grammar here? What is this verb conjugated in? What tense is it conjugated in? What is this vocabulary word? What is the meaning of this sentence? Take it really slow. Try to break it down into those pieces. If you're consuming audio content, try to just listen to the first 10 seconds, do a repeat listen, or the first 30 seconds, do a repeat listen. And with listening content, a lot of times, just repeat that audio content, right? Try to watch the episode more than once, or just break it down into like a 2-minute segment, 30-second segment, and try to understand and figure out what's going on. Same with video games. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with the amount of content thrown your way, whether it's a ton of text on the screen or a ton of audio content. Take a deep breath, slow down, and really just try to analyze, okay, this is the option menu. Okay, this is where, I put my skills or something like that, right? Just take your time with this kind of, breaking down each subsection of the material, and it can be very overwhelming still. But I think that when you're dealing with compelling content that in a lot of cases just is for a native speaker, you really want to take your time and really break it down. Now, there are going to be cases where, hey, it is too difficult, and I think it's good to not just give up there, right? If you're reading a newspaper article and it's really tough, try out a different newspaper article, read multiple ones, right? Because in a lot of cases, it could just be the combination of grammar and certain words that really make it very difficult for you for that newspaper article. So try out different newspaper articles, try out different books. Maybe the video game that you're using is way too hard, try out a different video game, or try out a different Netflix series. You'd be surprised to find that the range of difficulty of compelling content can vary quite widely, right? Whether it's YouTube videos, Netflix series, movies, books, newspaper articles, whatever. So even if you kind of break it down, go slowly, and you're still encountering trouble, really try to look at other pieces of content that might actually be a better experience for you. Now, inevitably, there might be cases where no matter how slow you go, or how much you break it down and try out different newspaper articles or whatever, it's still just too hard, and maybe you need to go back and acquire more words, or learn some more grammar, or whatever it is. But before you do that, I think it's good to analyze, why did that overwhelming feeling come to you? Why did you get discouraged? Why was reading that book or that newspaper article a failure? In a lot of cases, it's going to really come down to you just don't know enough words, but really try to break it down, translate the newspaper article that you're reading, and maybe you kind of come to the understanding of, okay, there is a bunch of words here that are pretty complicated even in my native language, so clearly this material I'm using is way too difficult, so I need to go find other material to try to practice reading. In some cases, you might even recognize the words in the book that you're reading, right, or the newspaper article. Maybe you'll come to the conclusion when analyzing what went wrong, okay, wait, the really big problem here is that there's a bunch of prepositions. I've seen them before. I kind of know them, but I don't really know them. And so I need to go back and really learn these prepositions or really learn these adverbs because I kept seeing them, but I just didn't know them, right? It could be as simple as that, where you really just need to learn some of these connecting words. Maybe you encountered a lot of really crazy word order or certain conjugations and you go, okay, I saw a ton of this conjugation or a ton of this word order. I didn't really know what was going on, so I need to go back and get better at word order because I saw that in the context of what I was reading, and I really need to improve that because that was one of the big reasons why I struggled with this newspaper article, right? Try to break down the reason for why you failed, because then when you go back to learn more vocabulary, learn the grammar or whatever it is, you have a plan on what you need to tackle to then hopefully in the future get back to that material, understand it, learn from it, and have fun with it. So I think it's really important to try to break it down in terms of what went wrong, in terms of why you couldn't understand the audio content, the video game, the reading material, etc. So that's what I had to say on the subject. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.